So I hope you have enjoyed the Boomers versus the Millennials. We just finished part 1 of a 3-part series, and we're about to embark on part 2. Welcome back to Ask Dr. Beth, America's teenologist, bridging the parent gap. And what we're talking about on these episodes is the Millennials versus the Boomers. Ba, 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 ba. And if you have any questions, you can email me at askdrbeth@drbeth.com. Bring your questions, bring your challenges. I would love it if you disagree with me. And I am going to teach you how to do it lovingly so that I can actually hear you, so that we can both lift this world up. So I'm going to find, I was talking to Alexa on our break about could she disagree with me if she wanted to on film? And I'll let her answer that question. So do you feel safe disagreeing with Dr. Beth, the Dr. Beth?
The Dr. Beth. Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I believe you, actually.
Because I know that if I disagree with you, you will be totally open to having a conversation about it. You're not going to put up any kind of wall.
Yes. And you know the other thing I trust is that if we disagree about something, it's going to create a breakthrough, and we're going to have both of us have a higher level of understanding, and it's going to impact both of our lives.
Yes.
So just because I think I know something, I am so willing to be wrong. How about you?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, one of the things we also talked about was the fact that every single pairing of people communicate and get through obstacles in different ways.
Yes.
So what might work for one group of people might totally be different for another.
Absolutely.
So there's no one right answer ever.
And I've got a theory about that. May I share my pontification?
Please.
About. So I've talked with you a little bit in the past about the inner 3-year-old. And the inner 3-year-old is the emotional, young, vulnerable, raw, the one that wants to hide under the covers, like my little one this morning before coming to the TV station, and was up a lot of the night, and I was snuggling with my pillow, and I was doing prayers and meditations and just doing a lot of inner work to make that little young part of me feel safe and tell her there was no way to do this wrong. Did you have any of those feelings?
Yes.
A few?
I did. Yeah.
Just one, right?
Completely. I think any time that you do a segment, it's going to be like that.
Yeah. So that little precious 3-year-old, I call her Little B. She's my little precious angel. And what I love about her is she has so much courage. She has so much vivaciousness. And I was actually talking to my dad yesterday, and he was going through where I was born in Huntsville, Alabama, and Louisville, Kentucky, and he was telling me all these memories that he had of me as a little girl. One of my favorite memories that he was telling me about was sitting in one of those bouncy chairs, and I would go bounce, 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 bounce. He said at age 1.5 or 2, like I had that little bouncy chair.
That's
down.
advanced.
It was a double-sided door, and I was just rocking it. So the little 3-year-old is expressive. She's wild and crazy. I was sitting in a Starbucks one time, and this literal little 3-year-old went by holding his mom's hand and just jabbed me in the side. Bloop! And I went, ah! And I said, oh, you better watch it. And he just grinned and just kept on walking. That's a crazy little inner 3-year-old. So the 3-year-old can have big loving feelings, big energetic feelings, and can be a little embarrassing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So another character comes along to protect us from the little 3-year-old, and I call that the 7-year-old. The super duper 7-year-old, the little Poindexter, perfectionistic, moralistic, socialistic, legalistic,
They go by the rules.
Yes. They are the makers of the rules, and it's my way or the highway, and I'm telling you what to do and when to do it and how to do it, where to do it, and if you don't do that, you are wrong, 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 and bad, 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 bad. Do you know any baby boomers like that? In the inner 7-year-old.
Oh, at times, yeah, I think people go in and out of those places.
Yes. And I would actually say that probably, depending upon the the group, 75, 85, even as high as 95% are in that structured world.
Okay.
Very, very structured.
Yeah.
Then another character comes along to save us from our inner 7-year-old. Because that inner 7-year-old can be just overwhelmingly exhausting. Can you feel me?
Oh, yeah.
And then we have the inner teen, the mamma jamma, passionate, powerful, bodacious, outrageous, in your face, politically incorrect sometimes, and the truth teller, the passion, the purpose. So who do you think you are most of the time, Alexa? Are you in your little 3-year-old? Are you in your 7-year-old? Or are you in your inner teenager most of the time?
I would say that I go back and forth between 7-year-old and teenager.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And then when I'm feeling a little insecure or kind of like life is turbulent, I will resort to my 3-year-old.
Yes. And kind of go within.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And need a little more coddling than normal.
Yes. Yes. And do you look for that coddling in a relationship, in your mom, or have you mastered and found a way to find that inner coddling within yourself?
Mom is on speed dial number 1.
Aww.
She's the first one to get any 3-year-old phone call.
And I bet she also gets to experience your inner teenager as well.
Oh, totally.
And so part of the challenge being a parent, when we get to be on speed dial, because many, many, many moms are on speed dial for that little inner 3-year-old, yet many moms also have this mamma jamma inner teen that doesn't want to do what the parent tells them to do from their little inner 7-year-old. So what happens is you say it depends on who you're talking to. And I would say it depends on in what state they're in. So if I'm in my little inner 3-year-old and you're in your little inner 3-year-old, we're going to have a different conversation. Right. If I'm in my inner 7-year-old and you're in your inner 3-year-old, 7-year-old, or teenager, we're going to have 3 different conversations. So do the math. How many is that? If I have 3, you have 3, 3 times 3 times 9, I've lost track of the math. Do you know what it is? How many different relationships we could have?
A lot.
So 3 to 317.
Maybe is that
7
is that 27?
Probably. I'll go with 27. It's a bunch, right? Because I can be any one of those and you can be all of those.
Right. It's a lot of combinations.
There's a lot of combinations.
Yeah.
No wonder we get sideways sometimes with each other. But I am going to give you another super tip of the world. No charge. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Who you're being can cause me to be one of those players.
Okay.
Do you know how?
I don't. And I'm wondering how you can control who you're being.
Well, that's the first question.
Okay.
Many of us can't.
Okay.
And that may take a lifetime.
Okay.
And I'm still mastering it.
It almost seems like kind of an intuitive state that you go into and you can't necessarily control how you're going to react to it.
Yeah, and it absolutely depends. And by the way, there's a 4th character. And this character is the divine wise self, or the ideal inner parent. And I call this the part of us from the 30,000 foot. And from the 30,000 foot, what we do with this part of ourselves, she can make our little 3-year-old feel safe. The brag list is fantastic for the inner 7-year-old so that she gets to win. One of my double dog dares for people is to come up with at least 100 brags to start, and then at least 25 a day to fill up your little inner 7-year-old. I don't know about yours, but my hole is the size of the Grand Canyon. And so I had to do this for years, telling her she's so great at this and she's so great at that and she's so great at this, so that I'm not at the yo-yo stage of everybody else being able to throw me down, take me up, and spin me around the world.
Right.
So if I can give myself that gift of feeling safe, give myself that gift of I get to win no matter what. I used to have a to-do list on an Excel spreadsheet, speaking of, that would be pages and pages and pages. I would get so much done. I had about as much energy as you have. And
you still do, Dr. Beth.
No. I pale in comparison to you. And I was crazy. I mean, I was crazy. I would work like 17, 18, 20, 22 hours a day. There was one point in my life that I was crazy. My little inner 7-year-old was on steroids. She was insane. Not literally on steroids, but she might as well have been. And there was a time when I finally was like, enough already.
Yeah. Because
I never got to win. It felt like somebody kept moving my carrot. Right. Somebody kept moving my cheese. No matter what happened, it was never enough. Can you feel me?
Oh, completely.
Okay, yes. So this brag list is the key. And then the way you fill up the authentic, passionate, powerful inner teenager is give yourself permission to vent. That mofo, that bada, take somebody's inventory, yeah, but do it on paper, or that you can crumble and you don't have to have the backlash and the karmic debt coming back at you like a boomerang, or do it on a computer. One of the things I did was I put on there something like, something, and that wasn't enough. So I highlighted it once, Control C, Control V, and then I had a whole page. Then I highlighted the whole page, Control C, Control V, Control. It was like I had so much big feelings, I had to just like fill it up. And then I was like 15 pages, Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. I mean, it's like passionate feelings. I needed to get this out.
Yeah.
And then after I did all of that, selected the whole thing and hit delete. So that's one of the ways you can take care of your 3-year-old, take care of your 7-year-old, and take care of your inner teen from the divine wise self.
I also read around like those quick wins and finding your happy place. There's so much talk right now about, gratitude journals, and like Hal Elrod's book about the miracle morning, and how you start every morning with your words of affirmation and writing down what you're appreciative of. And those are, in a way, kind of like what you were talking about, those quick wins where you can say, I'm experiencing this.
Yes. And are you saying that was there any inner teen attitude in what you were just saying?
Tell me more.
Well, I heard a little bit. And you write down your gratitudes, and you write down this. Or was it all from your inner 7-year-old, like you actually believe all of it is perfect?
I believe that when we say and feel and appreciate the good things that are happening in our life, we feel a sense of accomplishment.
Yes. And have you ever had a moment in time where you didn't feel like being in gratitude?
Oh, completely.
Okay. Yeah. And to be told to go do one of those gratitude lists, you just want to throw up, and you're like, blah.
Of course.
Okay. So yes, that's a great little inner 7-year-old tip. It's super. It's fantastic when it works. And it works a lot. But what I find is when I give myself permission to let my authentic teen first vent and go through the stuff, then I can come back and give myself to come to the gratitude. So more about that. So when I talk about this inner 3-year-old, 7-year-old, and inner teen, it's not like one is better than the other. And it's not like we're trying to get rid of them. And it's also all made up. It's completely all made up. If it fits and it makes sense to you and it brings you joy and it gives you more happiness, then use it. And when we come back, I'm going to show you how who you're being can affect others. Welcome back to Ask Dr. Beth, America's teenologist. And we are bridging the gap between millennials and boomers. And when I call it bridging the parent gap, it's because we're all having to bridge that parent gap within ourselves. And what I mean by that is that we become our own inner divine wise self. We become that ideal parent, and we stop needing our parents to fill us up. We stop needing our spouses and our friends and our colleagues and our bosses to keep telling us how fabulous we are. We stop needing our things and our stuff and everything outside of ourselves to be the thing that causes us happiness. Can you be happy fat? Can you be happy broke? Can you be happy ill? Can you be happy no matter what? One of my favorite books is Viktor Frankl, In Search of Self. I read this book probably 30 years ago. And he was captured in the camps, and everybody in his family was killed, murdered, tortured. Everything was done to this man. And the whole book is, I'm giving you the Cliff Note version, the whole book is, you can mess with me, but you cannot control my mind. So what I am about has been trying to figure out how to master that. How do I get my yo-yo back where no one can ever control me? I get to have happiness no matter what. And I've got a bunch of tools on how to get us there. Today, what I'm going to talk with Alexa about is how to take this inner family and how we trigger each other and how to get our power back. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
So tonight I actually have an event. It's called Power Parenting. Mm-hmm. And what you may think is it's power over your children, but what it's really about, just between you and me, don't tell anybody, what it's really about is taking your yo-yo back so that your children cannot ruin your life.
That's powerful.
You don't want to be able to ruin your parents' life, right?
No. I want all that power to be taken away from me.
Say that again. Say that again. Come on, preach on.
I want all that power to be taken away from me so that I can be whoever I am, and my parents are not going to be affected by it at all. Or at least it's not going to affect their personal life.
And did you know what the boomers think?
What?
About that?
What?
They think that kids, teens, the millennials want their way all the time. Mm. They think that you want the power at their expense. They think that you just want to take and take and take and take, and that you want them to give their life to you.
How do you prove to them that you don't need that?
Right?
How do you show them that?
Help me. Help me, Alexa. Help me. Help you. Help me. Help you. This is, I've interviewed hundreds, maybe even thousands at this point, kids, and I ask them this question. This is the question. Would you rather your mom give you what you want and then be furious with you and feel hurt? Or would you rather your mom tell you no and you get to be mad at her?
Are you asking me that question?
I am asking you that
now?
question.
I think I would rather the second.
You would rather her tell you no and you get to be mad?
Yes.
Is that your final answer?
Yes. And because of what you said about that author, because even if I'm upset, I get to be in control of how I deal with it.
That's right.
And I know that as my mother, she's doing her job because she probably knows something that I don't know.
Yes.
And she can see how that decision is going to impact the future.
Yes, and what I teach parents and management teams is, like, if and I'm going to invade your space right now. Permission to invade your space?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to do this as an example. Okay, I want you to put your hand here. I want you to move this there. I want you to move this. Move your hair that way. Stand like this. Is there any part of, like, the hairs on the back of your neck standing up? Like, my boundary is to control you. How's that working?
Not super well.
Okay, that dog.
Not super well.
That dog don't hunt. That dog don't hunt. So this is the difference. If you started cussing at me, and instead of me putting my hand over your mouth, or grounding you, or threatening you, or punishing you, or trying to change your behavior, instead, I could put earplugs in my ears. Or I could say, I get you're having big feelings. Go for it. I'm going to go over here because I don't want to be a part of that. Right. Which feels better? Me trying to control you, or me taking power and controlling me?
The second one.
Okay. And can you, as a child, be willing to do the same thing?
Yes.
So instead of you, and this is where it gets a little gray with the young adults and the teenagers and the millennials, because there's a lot of, your parents have done so much for you. And if they just all of a sudden start taking things away, that feels weird and doesn't feel good either.
Right.
So you'd probably like to be told ahead of time what's going to be taken away. Right?
Definitely, yeah.
So if you were going through a little podunk town, and it was 55 miles an hour, you go through the town, and then you go right through the town, and then you get a ticket, and the police officer says, that's going to be $350. Mm-hmm. And you were going 55 miles an hour. What would you say? Well, 55 mile an hour sign.
Yeah.
$350 ticket. What would you say?
Did I see the 55 mile per hour sign?
Yes, and you were going 55, but the speed limit's 25. But there was no 25 mile an hour sign. It fell down. And that'll be $350. How you feel about that?
Not very good.
And do you ever feel in life that sometimes that happens with your parents? Or not necessarily with your parents, that kids experience this. Like they don't know what they don't even know. They don't know the rules. They step in a pile, and then all of a sudden they have punishment.
Right.
So one of the ways that we can better understand each other in bridging this gap is I've got something I'd like to share with you. May I share it?
Yes.
That's the first tip. I've got something I'd like to share with you. Who do I think I am to share my wisdom with you when you haven't asked for it? Right?
And it happens all the time.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So what is a way that you can take your power back lovingly, compassionately, without shaming me and making me feel bad and wrong and ruining my relationship? Because I'm in a super 7-year-old space. I'm wanting to tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, where to do it. And I'm unconsciously turning you into either a compliant doormat 3-year-old, or I'm going to turn you into a teenager. Poof! I have the power to do that. By what I do and how I do it, I have the power to do that to you. And you have the power not to go there. Would you like that power?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so how can you take your power back?
So I could start by asking permission.
Yes.
I can ask questions around what the intent is of the comment or the ask so that I understand what side of the story they're coming from.
Yes.
And then I can ask permission to share my perspective and how they might be misaligned.
Yes. And the key to any confrontation, this is a magical key. It's curiosity. If I'm in my super 7-year-old and I'm right, and you're in your super 7-year-old and you're right, we are in war. Mm-hmm. Wars are fought from the super 7-year-old. They're fought.
It's a great visual.
Exactly, right? Little Poindexters dropping bombs on each other and doing all of this. And what I know, because I have taken people that are in this little super 7-year-old mode with each other at wars with restraining orders against each other. Mm. And I take them to their, are you willing to hear your mom's inner teenager? Are you willing to hear her mamma jamma expression? Are you willing to hear it if it's going to clear space? Would you be willing to hear that?
Definitely, yeah.
And do you think your mom would be willing to hear your mamma jamma?
I think so.
Could she hold it?
It depends what it is.
Okay. So this is what is key. As the boomers, the millennials and the teens have to trust that we can hold. Do you think I can handle anything you have to say to me?
Yes.
Anything. And any way you needed to say it. Do you think I can handle it?
I do.
Any way you need to say it.
I do.
With cuss words, with attitude, any way it came at me. You think I could hold your space?
I think you can. I don't think that about everyone, though.
Okay. So, do you think you could handle others in that way?
No.
Okay. So, this is your work if you so choose to accept it. This is how you get your power back. I used to teach trainings at Saturn, and I had 35 or 40 people in the room, and I would tell them to attack me. That was the game. It was assertion and managing conflict, active listening and managing conflict. Because the key is, I have to be able to listen in such a way that you feel free to talk any way you want to talk. Mm-hmm. And if you want me to talk to you, you have to be able to handle anything I have to say. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to listen no matter how I have to put it out. Mm-hmm. But if people don't have those skills, which many of us don't yet, then we have to find a new way to communicate what we need to say so that people can hear us.
Right. Because, I mean, a minute ago you asked if your mother was to talk to you in that way, would you be able to handle it? And the answer was like a certain yes for that question. But then when you said, if anybody, that's when it changed, because depending on the relationship that you have with the person,
yes,
you don't always know if you're going to be able to, truly listen,
right,
and not let yourself kind of like
react
or fall apart, or however your body feels.
So another super tip, are you ready?
Yes.
If you get triggered, guess what?
What? It's
yours. Period. If you so choose to accept that. If you really truly want your power, this is how I do life. Like, period. I don't care what you say. If I called you a pink polka dotted elephant, would you care?
No.
If I said you're a terrible daughter, or you're no good son of a gun, or you would never make it as a wife, or you would something that I could say, or you'll never make it as a keynote speaker, would any of those trigger you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All of them.
What I want you to be able to say to me next time we talk is no. Mm. And that's when you get your power back. So when we talk to each other, I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. I'm really good at this. On one hand, it's 100% my responsibility to be responsible for how I deliver the message. And on the other hand, I'm 100% responsible for how I hear your message. That's how I get 100% control over me. If I'm willing to take 50-50%, then I've got 50-50% control. If I'm willing to take 100% responsibility just for me, then I have a little bit. But take it all, and that's when you get your power. I'm DrBeth.com. So that's a wrap for part 2 of our 3-part series. Come back and listen to part 3.